So we've got 4 questions for this second panel, daring to think, to be truthful, to love. They are, what are the major obstacles that stand in the way of building a peaceful, sustainable, life-affirming society? What stands in the way of your own work psychologically or societally? How are you personally confronting these obstacles? And finally, what models of resistance seem effective to you? And again, the quote from Buckminster Fuller that accompanies this set of questions is this one: I'm not trying to counsel any of you to do anything really special except dare to think, and to dare to go with the truth, and to dare to really love completely. All right, I want to address these questions in the spirit of Fuller's advice as a teacher, and share with you some examples from my experience as an educator, and think about, again, youth in general, and I guess college students, both undergraduates and graduate students in particular. Kristen just did a really nice job of outlining this system that we all suffer under, that she was describing as wealth, war, and control. Another way of looking at the root of that, or the obstacle that stands in the way of moving beyond wealth, war, and control, is the absence or the shortage or the illness of democracy. Right? Or to put that positively, the rule of the people, popular sovereignty of a genuine sort, is the answer to all of the problems that bedevil us. Right? It's very clear, again, you know this from your own work, and it's backed up by various sorts of polls and surveys and the like, that if government and corporations only got out of the way of the people, we'd do exactly what needs to be done and probably live happily ever after. So that, if you had to put your finger on a single obstacle, and of course it's linked to a whole bunch of other phenomena, it's networked with a series of other problems, but it's an absence of democracy. It's that we don't really have control over our own lives in any kind of real or collective way. Looking next at the second question about what stands in the way psychologically and in social or cultural terms from my perspective, students to do anything about this. It's 2 things in particular, it seems to me, after having done this now for 25 years or so. Fear and debt, and the 2 are closely linked. The higher education system's been transformed since you were in school. It once was possible to get a bachelor's degree in this country and emerge from that experience with 0 debt. All right? Often, sometimes, depending on a particular program you were doing, even with some money in your pocket, and a more or less bright future ahead of you with an abundance of challenging and well-rewarding jobs. Those days are long gone. Okay? Instead, now a significant majority of students emerge with a bachelor's degree, should they be successful, by the way. Most students who enter college don't succeed for a variety of reasons, mostly economic pressures. But this new graduate is crippled often, burdened under enormous debt, which does a number of things immediately. Perhaps the most important immediate effect is to narrow his or her horizons when it comes to career choices. It's been very difficult to watch this happen over the course of my career, and it kind of parallels it. That once upon a time there were far greater opportunities for a bright, hopeful, talented young student to go into non-governmental work, to work for a peace organization, for example. The ability to support oneself today, given debt service to a bank and or the government, has made that more difficult than ever. Right? So very constrained options to working for some giant corporation which is going to pay you sufficiently both to get through the day and manage your bills, and at the same time, again, service your debt. So we need to confront this, and there are we can talk about this in the discussion, hopefully, a number of exciting campaigns afoot right now to do so. But the other thing, and it's related, is fear. It's fear of the future, it's fear of one's career prospects, it's fear of the omnipresent surveillance that they live under. The caution of today's students is quite striking to me. And again, here I'm generalizing. You're going to find students without fear or with reduced amounts of it. But I think generally many students are very afraid because they being this first generation, maybe second or third cohort at this point, whose lives have been lived in public in some real ways through social media, understand that employers and other powerful institutions have access to their lives, to their Facebook page or their Instagram account, or these other ways in which they interact with friends and family. This makes them exceedingly cautious about doing anything that might be seen as radical or anti-systemic or outside the norm. And that kind of caution, again, coupled with that real fear of retaliation by some potential employer, the search of their online existence comes to play, I think, a really important kind of social squeeze on them to reduce their options, to get them to behave themselves in conventional terms. How do we, the third question, how to personally confront this? Again, two ways primarily. One is to make education affordable again, and there are some exciting initiatives underway in a number of states, include successful thus far only in Oregon as far as I know, but there's a bill presently in Albany before the New York State Legislature to not exactly make public higher education free, but to do it in a way that a student can attend without money up front, having some financial responsibility of following graduation on the basis of ability to pay. So rather than this kind of one-size-fits-all model, it's instead will extend and support to you in advance. We'll open up the doors of state colleges and universities. You'll have to pay us some money down the line for some number of years, again on the basis of your salary and income. It's brand new in Oregon. I don't think a single class has graduated yet under this system, but it's a kind of incremental reform of the corporatization of higher education that I think shows some promise, and again could happen here in New York too. And then the other thing is to make non-governmental careers viable for more students. Right? And here, essentially, I'm talking about the labor politics of a lot of do-good groups. They're often pretty bad. If you've ever worked for a non-governmental organization, a social movement organization, there's a kind of expectation that you're in it for the cause and it's not about the money or the benefits. Well, that seems to be unrealistic. Right? You still have rent to pay and food to put on the table and perhaps a family to support. Those non-governmental jobs need to pay some kind of living wage. Often they don't. Ideally, there's a handful of them that are also represented by labor organizations. There'd be collective bargaining agreements. Right? So a kind of unconventional idea, but I think one that's essential. Otherwise, the non-governmental sector is going to continue to gray and make it harder and harder to recruit new, fresh-thinking young talent. And models of resistance, what is this fourth question? I think the one reasonable way to conceptualize it is that we need to accentuate and reinforce cooperation over competition. Everything the young student has had to up through their college education has been about competition. It's been about getting the best grades possible and doing as well as possible on some standardized test. It's about filling out one's resume, kind of ticking off extracurricular activities that they think a college admissions officer is interested in. It's kind of getting close to a key teacher or two so they can get letters of recommendation. There's been, but it's done in this competitive aspect and culture, and one that unfortunately is increasing. You may be aware of this. It is harder and harder for even the best students to get into elite institutions. We're at record levels right now. Fewer and fewer places available for more and more students at their first choice universities. So what to do about that? Well, again, we need to look at the exciting existing initiatives and budding opportunities around a cooperative society, around looking at anti-consumerism, at sharing, at cooperative living as a means of making it once they get through this higher education system. And again, all kinds of exciting grassroots initiatives out there on this point, whether it be co-housing or other kinds of cooperative living arrangements, whether it be tool shares and seed banks and libraries now that share many other things. The possibilities there for allowing students to kind of step aside the competition and the hyper-consumerism of American society, I think are quite exciting, and again, will be necessary if we're to have future generations of folks like ourselves resisting war and trying to build a peace culture. Thank you.